let me
So
just
which
go.
one's that?
5 Woodland. Let me
5 Woodlands?
Yeah, let me go print that agenda. I did
And when's that scheduled for?
7:15.
And then,
Pick it then.
It just doesn't turn on, that's the problem, and all my minutes are on that computer. And then, so I called Sherry Gould and told her if she wanted to come earlier than 7:30, she could,
so
because
7:30 is Arc Place?
7:30 is ARC, and then 7:45 is moving the permits. Did you leave me?
Taylor Street?
Taylor Street. All right.
Can you just put in another plug in?
It just, the computer just doesn't turn on, and that's the problem.
That's all.
No, it's not okay, because all my minutes are. Another computer.
So is that the same situation you asked me about in Lunenburg with the cows and the neighbors?
Yeah, I mean, I walked the fence line. I mean, I don't know enough about cows to know what kind of a hole they'll walk through. But there's one hole in the fence that I wouldn't go through as a person. Maybe a cow's dumb enough to, because it would scratch its back and kind of up stone wall down and.
Originally, they were like leaning pallets on a tree or something, is what I heard. So they've been, but apparently they've been getting out. So
Well, I guess they get out in the spring, but the woman said that, they were doing something, transporting the farmers were transporting something. They left the gates open, the cows got out, went down the street, walked up the guy's driveway.
another way
Which-
here. Yeah.
I mean, which makes more sense to me than them going through that hole in the fence. I mean, again, I just don't know what cows will wander through. My thought is if it's open and unimpeded, they'll walk through it.
Yeah.
But if they've got to climb up a stone wall, it strikes
No,
me.
they typically don't climb. Goats, well.
Well, this is, they got to go up maybe, that much.
Oh, they'll go over that.
Well, but then there's a hole in this wire that I would think they get stuck in. I mean, they're big enough, but
Yeah.
it just,
With good reason they'll go through it. There's something tasty on the other
but
side.
it's all woods on the other side.
Yeah, so there's no real
Yeah,
impetus.
it's not like nice green grass, which is like all behind them, so they're gonna put in one of these fence panels up, and, the biggest dispute they're having there is a property line dispute.
Yeah. call the meeting to order of June 23rd, 2015. Board reports. Bill?
Just that I went down to Howard Ave the other day, and one day last week, as a matter of fact, because there was a complaint about an odor, and I was on the property of the source of the odor, and I couldn't smell anything, but when I went over to Colonial Drive, I could smell an odor that was somewhat like rotten apples, and I spoke to Mrs. McLaughlin there, and told her that, you know, we're keeping an eye on it. And if we get any complaints, somebody's going to show up to verify it.
I've been by 3 times since the last meeting. I didn't smell anything. Ann had sent a report. She had been by and was reporting there was green vegetation in there. They are limited to leaf waste. I went by to check that out. What I found was some very fresh green vegetation mixed in with well-decayed compost. So my suspicion, if I saw the same thing that Ann did, was that when they turned the pile, they just dug up some weeds. So I've actually got a picture of it, and it was a fraction of a percent. So I'm not, if it's what I saw, I don't think there's a real issue there.
I didn't smell anything.
And Shelley, we've done some work. You and I have had some discussions on we had talked at the last meeting about the neighbors being able to report to Jim as well as all the board members at once, because Jim's got other duties in other towns, and between all of us, we can likely get out there pretty quickly. So Shelley's been investigating that.
So the method that, I talked to Nancy in IT, and she thought the best method, because we don't really want to get into texting and cell phones, because that gets a little dicey. So we're going to do a distribution list, which is going to have all the Board of Health members' emails, Jim's email, and the Health Department's email. So we'll just call it, you know, Harwood Ave distribution list or something. So we'll give that email link to all the neighbors, and so then when they want to report something, they'll send it to that, and it'll go out to everybody. So then whoever gets it and responds can just reply back, you know, I went out there or whatever. We just have to be careful that that's the end of it, that there's no conversation. And then maybe, you know, every meeting we'll just sort of, I'll have a log
We'll do a
of
recap.
the calls and what was done. So I think that's the easiest method. Then on weekends, you know, we're not going to expect Jim to come from home on weekends. So the board members will all get it without it being
Can they forward it? Did you talk to Nancy about being able to forward the?
well, it will go to everybody. So,
Okay. Oh, so
so
just no
yep.
matter
So
what.
it'll be just it'll be one email that they'll type in, and it'll go to everybody all in one email. So,
Gino, do you get email via your phone?
Yeah.
Okay. And there was a log. Jim, did you?
I did.
It's okay.
I need, yeah, it's something I can do.
I don't think it's complicated. I can work with you on it if you
Yeah.
want. So.
yep. So we'll get that out and then just start tracking it, and then, you know, maybe.
To me, I think that's the best way, because, I mean, I get an email to the phone, so if I happen to be in town,
Right,
and
me
it comes
too.
in, I'll just go right out, and,
Yeah.
or if I'm nearby, I mean, I'm more than happy. And sometimes I'm in the office on the weekend. I mean, I surprised Mr. Schachter one day by showing up about half an hour after he called, and there was no odor. It depends on the winds going. So.
Yeah. But yeah, no, not that we don't trust you, but we realize you can't be everywhere at
Oh,
once,
no,
so I
no,
figured
no.
this way we'll get more eyes and have a
Go
quicker
by every
response.
day,
But it's interesting, we got a call on, I forget which day it was. But Ann and I had been out there like at maybe 11 o'clock, and by 1 o'clock, something shifted enough that I got a complaint that there was the smell in the neighborhood, so.
Yeah. Here's a question. Should we, when we go out there, if we do or don't smell something, do we want to fill out the same log and send it in?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah. And for no odor as well.
Hmm.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
3 or 4 fields, right? I mean, it's not complicated.
Yeah, well, that's, my thought is date, do time,
Yeah.
the location where you noticed it, and then if there's any activity up on the field,
Yep.
and if it's windy. I mean, that, to me, that gives us the parameters, I think, that we need to try to figure out. Because you know, sometimes it's only at Jeff Schachter's place, which is across Richard Way, and nowhere else. And sometimes, I don't think I've ever smelled it once or twice on Colonial, not have had the wind doing it on the backside of Richard Way, so.
So I have a question, Jim, you probably know the answer better than anyone on this. So when Ann had sent you, she sent it to Shelley, and Shelley forwarded it to me about the vegetation. I went down there, and the owner wasn't around, and I went onto the property anyhow, which I figured he probably wouldn't mind, but how should we deal with that situation?
I think when we do the log, because I think we were gonna give him a copy of the log also,
Yeah.
just say that,
Let him know.
just kind of a standing,
Yeah.
okay, to me, that would be best, just to kind of.
But can we go on the property, or should we check with him and get
Well,
permission? I
we
feel
should
more
definitely
comfortable
get
getting permission.
We should definitely get permission. I mean, I tell people all the time, and I have to get it, unless somebody allows me on the
So I'll
property.
stop by, or Bill, you know him as well, and talk to him and say, this, you know what we're doing, is it okay if we stop by? And if he's not comfortable with it, we'll.
Because anytime I've had a problem, what I do is I go to the property, get on the property, find him on the property.
Yeah, I looked for him the time I went, but he wasn't there, and,
So it's that old notion of inspections. You can do kind of the sidewalk, drive
Right.
pass by inspections. And you can go up to the door essentially, and whatever you can see, you can see.
my sense is he's supportive of what we're trying to do, but I do want to check with him before we start going back. on
And like I
the-
said, my thought is you do that by saying, we're gonna get these kind of calls hit or miss. We will try to find you first, but you have a problem if we can't find you, if we just do.
So, Bill, I think you know him, I'll stop by, whoever hears from him, how he wants us to handle that, if he can get back to Shelley, and she can share with us. I don't.
Actually, the day that we did the site visit, before I left, I spoke with him, and I just said, "You know my truck, right?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Would you be against me driving in here someday if somebody calls and has a complaint?" He said, "No."
No.
So, we can do it on an individual basis like
Let's
that,
just
or
double
we can
check
do it
on the
on a
whole board, I
blanket.
think.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't think we need it in writing, I just want verbal, make
Yeah.
sure he's comfortable with it, so.
Yeah.
That's
Well, what I do when I go there, I just go in right before the first building.
Yeah.
I park right there, smell a little bit, instead of going all the way around, then I leave.
Yeah, well, I always look for him, even if he gives permission, I'm gonna look for him first,
You
but
may
if he's
just-
not there the other day, I'd like it, if he's okay with it, I think it would help if we could drive back there.
Well, the nice thing is, when he's there, you can actually walk, if there's
With
one, you
him.
can walk with him and kind of.
Right,
figure it out.
right, but if he's not.
And it's
What have we
good to
done?
kind of point out things, yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
okay. Great, thank you, Shelley, thank you, Jim.
Mr. Chairman, I thought I was supposed to have another meeting today, but I took an advice of a friend, so I made an arrangement to go another time,
Okay,
okay? I had another meeting downstairs.
okay, thank you,
And
Gino,
I'm gonna stay for the duration.
glad you made it. Any other reports, Bill,
Nope.
Gino,
That's it,
John?
except for that.
Yeah. The only thing I want to report is, as you know, we talked last week about doing kind of a survey of the septic system. I think we agreed on kind of around the lake and the common, where kind of the houses are densest and that sort of thing. There's added interest in the common because the sewer feasibility study has been released, and the selectmen have asked us to look at that as well. So I talked to Megan Ford, who headed the sewer feasibility study. I think I got Shelley an accurate list of all the houses and buildings and properties that would be included in that. The selectmen promised some extra money if we needed it. Shelley at this point doesn't think we do, but I did say we may come back anyway, so things change. What we're not clear on, and Bill and Gino, you have more experience here, how do we define the area around the lake as well? Because we did talk about that being part of that assessment.
In my opinion, all the property on the lake side of Goldsmith Street, from Shaker Lane all the way down to Adams Street, I think I know what the ground is like up there, and, I think that area should be a priority.
Yeah, I agree.
And that should include also the property that's on the, kind of the backside of the lake that sits up on the hill, too,
I would agree.
because the ground over there doesn't change.
And it's a pretty steep slope back there as well.
Yeah.
So are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, what's that back area, like what roads are those?
I don't know, but all the ones that go off of Goldsmith Street feed up to the top of that hill, not all of them.
Yeah.
Well, there's one road that's kind of on the crest of the hill. That seems like it should be one border. I don't know which road it is, but I can check it out and get back to you. I don't know the
Yeah,
bad
I
road
don't either.
names.
Lake,
Birch, is it up there in
One of those.
Cedar, come up on
Oh,
Overton?
okay.
I name them after trees, so I always get them confused.
and doesn't Lake Lakeside or Lake
Lake
View?
Shore comes around. and
Lake
then
Shore, yeah.
You've got like Cedar, you've got Aspen, you've got Cedar, Aspen, Birch, and then there's the side streets coming down Dahlia.
But we can do one that's perpendicular to Goldsmith and do everything between there and,
So the furthest one may be Aspen, because it kind of hooks around, then comes up to Emerson and goes that way, I think.
I think you're right.
Where does Lake Shore end? If it starts down the road from the beach and heads,
Is it?
Dahlia area, Washington.
I'm just thinking Lake Shore, I thought picked up at about, I'm trying to think of, is that Cedar coming down and wraps all the way around to Aspen? And then you go, that's where I thought Lake Shore was.
Got a map in this room.
I know.
A little better now. So what's the idea here? Is this to understand houses when they've last had septic inspections, or what's?
Jim probably knows this better than I do, but basically they're ones that haven't met Title V because they've been sold, or ones that they've found failures in them before and haven't
Okay.
been resolved.
Okay,
So there's
Okay.
a percentage of those, we don't really know what it is. We had a better idea. We could help, we could prioritize some of our efforts, and I think the selectmen and those folks would like to know kind of what, comparing the cost of putting in a sewer between doing that, that's beyond us, but we can
Right.
certainly share that data.
okay, all right.
So
So
would
it's
you-
a paper trail thing.
So we can run a report of all the Title V inspections probably since 2002 that were done in town.
Right.
And it'll break it out by those who passed, those who failed, conditional pass, and needs further evaluation. Those are the four categories.
Is the age of the system in there as well?
Um,
Is that useful data or some, I mean, it's been suggested to me, I don't know how accurate it is, that some of the systems may be the end of their useful life.
Yeah, I mean, that really depends on who's using it and how
Right.
they're using it.
Yeah.
I can generate a list that will sort them by the categories, pass, fail. Then we have them all scanned, so you can actually go through them. You'd have to go through each.
Okay,
inspection.
we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah,
but
to
that
pick up
was-
things like dates and stuff like that.
Okay.
A lot of these problems that people have on the septic system is because they don't take care of it.
Yeah.
Okay, if you take care of it every 2 years or every 18 months, I do it every 18 months, and I have no problem. The inspector can come and say, well, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
A
Some
lot
of
of
the
people
buildings
neglect it.
haven't changed hands and never really got forced through
Well,
Title
so
V
that's
as well.
that's the
That's
thing,
why
right? If
they
they've
changed
been, if they,
We have to
same person's
emphasize-
owned it for 20
Even
years.
those people that have the new septic system, we have to emphasize, say, look, you gotta clean them once in a while. This is not a sewage treatment. This is a septic tank that everything goes in there and some of it goes out, just the liquid. But the solid, you gotta take it out. That's what we have to emphasize.
The other thing is I stopped by and spoke to Peter Yap, and he said he was familiar with it, so he was gonna stop by and talk to you at some
Okay.
point and see if we could help out.
Okay. So we're looking for, we're gonna do the status of all of them.
Yeah,
And then we'll sort it by failed, ones that have been upgraded, I guess we can get into that.
So
Once
I'll
we
run the
get-
list first of all the Title V
And then we'll put
inspections
those
I've had
in.
For the past 13 years, I think I can give you 13 years.
Some of them are already being
And I can go
replaced.
through the list and kind of highlight the ones that I know of that have been
Right.
repaired.
can you also just provide bullets on the 13 years pertinent data? Like this goes back 13 years.
Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely.
just so we know
Yep.
parameters of the data.
You know, we have the inspections that go all the way back, but the database that we can easily draw from is about 13 years.
Let's start with that, see what,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so we're a little bit behind, but my understanding is 5 Woodland Drive never actually submitted a request. So we're looking for a motion to continue that.
Make a motion to continue that?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
all right.
Okay. So we don't have anybody scheduled till 7:30, so we've got a few more minutes to discuss septic systems in the lake, or any other issues we'd like to.
I have a couple of bills to sign. Oh, I know what we should talk about. The septic loan program.
Yeah, you do.
I wanted to end. So, three of the 5 have got to the point of starting to get money. 2 of them are in process, but there's still money left. And the Steve Venuti said that we have to
Use it.
use this money by December, or we have to reapply for the grant.
How
Is
much,
that-
how much money is that?
So there were 11 applications altogether. I think one person has already upgraded it,
Yeah, one's done.
and one might have moved. So there's possibly 5 more. So I guess, do you want me to send letters out to the next couple on the list?
Is enough money for that?
Yeah, they've been pretty right on line. The 5 would come out to about 150, which was what it had started out as. Only because it's not a quick process.
Right, no, I would do it on the sooner side.
It's a couple months, and where we're now getting into, I know there's one particular one, he hasn't even done soil testing or anything, King Street?
Be a shame to lose the money when people
Right.
need it. So,
Well, what it is, they recommend it, since it's a loan, you only pay on what you pull down, but they recommend that you spend it quick, because it's like a 2-year process, so you want to start having the money come back, so when you're paying, you've got the money to actually pay the loan back.
So my sense is we would want to send those letters out. Do you need a motion, or
No, if you just,
any other thoughts on that, Bill?
I thought that this money could roll over to the next year.
You can, but the thing is, you want to be getting money back in, so they suggest that if there's the need, spend it.
And then get it later.
Because you could, at least my understanding is you can go back for another loan
Right.
if you want.
So this reapplication that Steve was talking about is for more money, not, this isn't a reapplication for the money that's already been appropriated.
well, the way I understood it from Steve was if whatever's not used of the money by December just is, then we would have to apply again to get,
Okay.
is the way, he said December 30th. So it seems like a lot of things have changed in the program since the last time, just the way the disbursements are made. But it's a lot
Well, we've got
of-
people in queue, we've got the money there now, let's just go for
And
it.
since we're sort of have the process down, it's sort of easier just to get them all done.
Yeah.
Well, and you've got one of the lake neighborhoods that probably should be fixed sooner than later. That's what I'm thinking
Yeah.
of. The gentleman on, King Street, same
Yeah.
thing. He's been very patient in coming in. I'm trying to think of the other.
I mean, I
ones.
can get the list if you want me to get the list, and we can go down the addresses.
Yeah.
It would mean a lot to me, so I think I'm comfortable with you going ahead and sending
Okay.
it to folks.
Jim had, and the board last August had prioritized them, and so, even if we just maybe did the next 3 on the list, and then,
Because you can let that gentleman on King Street know, so you can actually get an
Right.
engineer to get the process
Right.
started.
Yeah, so the sooner the better, let's
Okay.
get it going.
okay.
Anything else, any correspondence? or-
There's just 2 accounts, oh, you did that. No, just the dates for mosquito control, I post that up on the website and on the bulletin board, and,
What's mosquito control up to?
killing mosquitoes. June 30th, July 8th, 14th, 21st, 28th, they will be in the town. So, they're good, when people call, if they're having a party or something and they want the yard sprayed, they call and they'll go out but they're very responsive, people will call back and say, oh gosh, I called right away, so it's a pretty good program.
Yeah, they've been decent to work with in all the towns. They do ditch cleaning. I mean, it's really.
No, I know, I used to
Yeah.
do it in the reclamation, I know,
Okay.
I was just curious
Okay.
what specifically they were writing to us about, because
Well, they send this out each month with the dates that they plan to be in town. It's all sort of weather dependent, but we just post them up there, and then if it's generally more for sort of new residents that are asking them to come out, or asking them not to come out, excluded. And then the only other thing is the Neshoba Board of Health. There's a board member who's a representative to the,
We meet the agencies
Committee.
quarterly, and so if somebody wanted, I guess.
so Ann was the representative for it last year. She does not want to do it because she's doing the MRC stuff. So if there's a member that wants to step up for Bill had expressed interest last year, so We just need a
wanna go,
motion,
Bill?
a motion for a member.
I'll do that.
You have a motion?
I make a motion that Bill Cole represent the Board of Health.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
We certainly appreciate it.
Congratulations, Bill, another meeting.
We certainly appreciate having people active, because
Oh, yeah,
the
that's,
more voices, the better.
I'll go for it.
So that's all I have.
Sherry, we're a little ahead schedule, but if you're not waiting, we can take you now if you want, or do we have to wait?
It's a discussion,
It's
so.
a discussion
Yep.
now, it's scheduled, so you can, I'd love to go early.
Uh-oh. Here's the bribe.
No, it's not a practice.
So Sharon, I'm not sure everybody here was present at the last meeting, so maybe we could give a recap of the situation. If that would be helpful.
Okay, we have a situation. I represented a client who purchased a property on 5 Arc Place in Littleton. The property, I guess, was a complete tear down and rebuild of a house on a 2-bedroom septic system. The builder had advertised for sale the property as a 2-bedroom house with a finished basement. My buyer made her offer driven by that aspect of the property. And when we came time to get the occupancy permit for closing, Roland refused to issue the occupancy permit because it hadn't shown on the building permit that there would be a finished basement. And we brought it to Jim and we brought it to the Board of Health, and their answer was that the basement space qualifies as a bedroom under the definition of bedrooms under the Title V. And so the person disadvantaged here is the buyer, who paid extra money for the house and who relied on the builder's representations. Now, I'm not here because I'm asking you to sanction a builder who ignored the rules. But when I did speak to Jim about the issue, about whether or not we could get permission from the board to finish the basement with whatever deed restriction or notice you want to take and put on the registry records and put in the file and give to the next owner, I think the biggest concern of the Board of Health, the Shelburne Board of Health and the local Board of Health, is that a system will be overtaxed because it will be used as a more than 2-bedroom house. And then when the system fails, the Board of Health will have nothing in its file to indicate that failure wasn't somehow, sanctioned or allowed by the Board of Health. The situation that I see, and I'm here really to ask you for any set of conditions or circumstances under which you might be able to allow this to happen. First of all, this is an older system, I think. It was not replaced, was it? Do you remember?
No, it had been replaced 20 years.
12, no, more than 12 years ago is what she told
92,
me.
so, but yeah,
And I wasn't aware of that originally. I thought it was a new system that wouldn't support a 3-bedroom design. It's not. It's a very, very large field, and if it fails, Rob Rada informally said it's a large bed and it could support 3 bedrooms. And my client would be more than willing to put as a condition in the file that if it fails, she will replace it with a 3-bedroom system. The living situation is this. She was been living in Littleton all of her life, and adult life. Her taxes had gone up to $10,000 a year. She couldn't afford that tax bill. She made efforts to downsize into a smaller home on the lake, which is at Arc Place. And the home is built such that the ground floor is garage and then a walkout basement to a level backyard, which is the top of the septic system. From that level backyard, you have to go up a full flight of stairs to the kitchen and living area, and then another flight of stairs above that for the 2 bedrooms. She lives as a single divorced woman, and she has 2 children who do not live, she doesn't have custody of them. They come on alternate weekends or something. And her request is that she be, and this finished basement has sliding glass doors out to this level backyard. Her request is to finish the basement like minimally, just so that if she has guests or company over and they're enjoying the backyard, you can come in out of the mosquitoes and enjoy a drink, or the kids can come in and play or watch TV at that basement level without having to traipse through, a full flight of stairs to go up and down in the house. There's not a bathroom down there. There's a high ceiling, but it is open to the backyard. And as I said, she's planning this as her house for a long time, but willing to put anything at all on the registry records, in the Board of Health file, anything at all that would enable her to enjoy a living area in the basement.
Jim, do you agree that that property could support a three-bedroom system? You had
Not
some cons-
necessarily, no, without looking at the plan now.
You can't, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's, so part of the issue is when you go from a 2 to a 3, it's considered new construction.
Right.
So it's fully compliant, it's primary reserve. So without sitting down and actually looking at the plan, the reason that that appears so big, today it probably wouldn't look as big as it is, but the requirements for the slope, the grading,
Yeah.
were much more severe back then.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fill in there that probably wouldn't be there if you did a 2-bedroom today, believe it or not. But without looking at the plan, yeah, I couldn't really say.
We had quite a bit of discussion of this at the last meeting. I think there were two distinct points of view on the Board of Health. One, and I don't mean to misquote anybody, so correct me, was the rules are the rules. If we allow this, we're going to undermine the integrity of the regulations. And the other perspective being that we can put some restrictions on this and show some flexibility and help this woman out. I think everybody sort of appreciates everybody else's viewpoint on this. We can have further discussion, or we can take it directly to a vote. We need a motion, of course, but Bill, do you want to summarize your perspective on this? Because you,
Well, I'm looking at the certificate of occupancy here, and it specifically says a 2-bedroom, full, unfinished basement. And it says it will be prohibited from having heat and carpet per Board of Health. This is a 2-bedroom structure maximum. We've had situations like this before, and I look at this as the simple fact that the builder basically did something he shouldn't have done here. And because the new owner is the one that's caught in the lurch, that criteria is being used to say, okay, let them do it. And I have a real problem with it because we've had, and I'm not going to say what they were, but we've had 2 situations in the past where very similar situation. Somebody went and did something and decided to ask forgiveness rather than permission. And that's basically where we stand. And, you know, if we do it now, it's going to come back and somebody else is going to say, well, you let them do it on Act Place, why can't I? And I hate being put in that position. So I'm basically against it.
Can I just respond to just a couple things that Bill said, and I don't disagree with what you said, but I want to clarify. The builder did put in wall-to-wall finished carpeting and heat and I think AC, but there's at least venting into that basement. And when Roland came and saw that that was done without it having been on the initial building permit, Roland forced him to pull it all out. So the wall-to-wall carpeting is gone. The ductwork has been plastered over, so that basement is not illegally finished. And this particular woman is not asking forgiveness because she went ahead and bought without her finished basement. What she's asking to do is, and it's a reasonable request, she doesn't want to start illegally putting carpet down and finishing the basement, as so many of us do in our homes. We need extra space, we take whatever space there is without a building permit. She would like the benefit of getting a legitimate building permit so that she can finish the basement for living quarters and have it be safe and you know, certified by the building inspector to be safe. I wouldn't even care if there was something that said when she goes to sell it, she has to take it back out again, because the point is not that she wants to sell this property unless the septic system is upgraded, but the point is not because she's trying to deceive someone into a third room. The point is, you know, quality of life. Yeah, the only other thing, and Bill, we had a long talk about this, you know, offline, and I do respect your position. These are my other points. This town's policy has been to allow people to finish basements, attics, and other areas with deed restrictions. We've had several come before us at the Board of Appeals recently on these 2-bedroom affordable houses on Paddock Way and the new ones on that Omni's building on 15 Great Road. They come all the time. Can I finish a basement? Can I finish an attic? They come all the time for in-law apartments. Their septic system is strained, but they have a functionally dependent relative that needs an in-law apartment. And we've had a history in town of making allowances for those legitimate requests with deed restrictions.
But the accessory use apartments would still need to meet the bedroom restrictions on the
Ye-
septic.
Yes,
Yeah.
but we have found ways
This
to
doesn't
do it
do
with a
it.
deed restriction. We've found ways, for instance, this house would not would not accommodate a functionally dependent relative who has to climb 3 flights of stairs. If this woman needed that room for a functionally dependent relative, we'd find a way to do it. We'd say you can use that downstairs as a bedroom, but you have to give up an upstairs bedroom, or something. We've done it in the past. We've made allowances for people who need stuff. So this isn't a situation where it's one or the other. She's really requesting just non-sleeping finished space, but not for sleeping quarters, not for overnight habitation in that area.
So from my perspective, I really appreciate what Bill says, and frankly, if this was the builder, I wouldn't even be considering this at all. But an alternate argument is that the reason we have a board is so we can look at these things on a case-by-case and offer some flexibility for the residents of the town. Shelley had suggested several restrictions that go beyond a simple deed restriction, which I think made sense. Do you remember what those were, Shelley? Because I don't.
In some of these cases, the wording is put on the permit never to be used as a sleeping area.
Never to be sold as a 3-bedroom.
And, yeah, I don't know what,
If the system fails, they need to upgrade to a 3-bedroom, things like that. They
So
put it-
that's, you,
but
that's
if
a
it can't,
dangerous ground, because
it may not.
if they can't do it, are you then allowing somebody to do something on the site that they
Or
shouldn't?
they're not allowed to have it because the system failed and they have to go backwards. Yeah. So that one we may not be able to
and I
do.
think the sleeping area one, that's wording that was used on 15 Great Road, and basically, I think that sort of is more, covers it insurance purpose-wise, because emergency egress and all that doesn't need to be met. In this case, there's a sliding glass door, so there is egress, but it sort of protects that the town is not condoning that it be a sleeping area, that it can just be a finished room for rec room, family room, whatever. But that's wording that's been put on building permits before.
Do you know, John, do you have any thoughts?
So as I think about this, and this original discussion was 2 weeks ago, right?
That's right.
I think. So how
Actually.
how enforceable are these kinds of restrictions? So we can say anything and say, put it down, but
They're enforceable if we have the personnel to go out and look at it, but I don't
Right.
think we do. Is that it?
Well, I mean, we always say we're not the bedroom police. and so
Right.
I think the biggest import of these is that they're in the file, so when they go to sell the house, I never doubt, when somebody comes and says, this is how I'm gonna really use my house, I have no doubt that that's what they're going
Right.
to do. It's when they go to sell.
that's what I'm questioning. That's the enforceable part, not the other part. So how enforceable is that going to be when they go and sell the house? If she does keep it and 20 years later
Well, the deed restriction carries with the
it
property.
carries with it, but again, I've seen those sorts of things slide through. I don't know if it's there.
a buyer beware kind of thing.
Right.
And most realtors now are coming through and going through all the files and making their
And the
buyers
attorneys should
aware.
be doing that.
Yeah.
sort of thing.
So the other question I had then too was, you made a comment earlier, you weren't sure, maybe I misinterpreted the discussion, you weren't sure that property could sustain a 3-bedroom system.
Correct.
So up front, would it be reasonable before anything happened, we actually had that information in hand? Because if we're saying, it's a deed restriction, so you can't, when you sell the house, you gotta put a 3-bedroom on it, and then you can't put a 3-bedroom system on it, then we got it, then what's the option? Then they take it out, completely take it out before they sell this too, I guess. But if we had that information up front, it would make the decision a little bit easier for me to know that.
So
That
have
would
an
just-
engineer look at it and see whether he thought it could.
Yeah,
My only problem with that, I'm not sure she would have a problem with that, but if the regulations change, today, all you would be able to do is find out what the soils look like, right, to determine if it'll support it.
So my understanding is that it's got deep holes, it's got perk tests, so it would be a design exercise at this point. the topos there. Somebody would need to kind of maybe redline a sketch and saying, yeah, if you had to replace it in full compliance with today's regulations, this is what it would look like, and yes or no, it might fit.
But if it won't support a 3-bed, and with or without that qualifying language, I think under Title V, she would be permitted to upgrade the system on a failure and have a further 2-bedroom.
That's right. I mean, so you always have the use is there, the existing use.
The existing
right.
other-
And
existing
working
other
around reasonable variances to the regulations and whatnot to make sure that people understand their property. It's when you go to that increase in flow, the 3 bedrooms, that you have to meet full compliance.
And my other comment to what you had to say was, in terms of enforcement, I just had a closing this week where the Conservation Commission of the town of Air actually made the buyer and the seller sign a document that got recorded at the registry, which said the seller has to notify the buyer that it's a 2-bedroom system and it's got this restriction on the basement, and the buyer has to sign their acknowledgement that they received that notification. And that actually had to happen before the closing could occur, so she'd be willing to do that.
Okay, I've bought and sold houses in 5 states, and I've seen some goofy things. So it would, so that's why I asked, okay.
It's too bad that the builder should have realized it before he sold the house, and the young lady should have realized that she buying 2-bedroom, not 3-bedroom. The question is, according to Jim, even if they have to put if the ground doesn't support a septic system for 3-bedroom, they can put a tight tank if they want to have a 3-bedroom. Then they have to take care of that tight tank. You know what I'm saying?
But she's not asking for 3 bedrooms, Gino, she's
I
asking
know,
for a
I know,
finished rec room.
I know.
Yeah.
I would probably, I don't know what Bill thinks, but I would say if the basement will not be finished, and you say the air conditioner's out, the carpet is out, am I correct?
That's where it
She's
is
not
now,
up-
Gino, but she wants to put that in.
Well, then you can use it as a bedroom. I said, she has 2 bedrooms. She can use the basement without carpet. You can put a little, instead of wall-to-wall, something. But I have to agree with Bill, because, we always arguing, the builder, whoever buys it, oh, we feel sorry for, we do feel sorry, I do feel sorry. But the question is, we have to go by the regulations, you know what I'm saying? I like to do a lot of stuff, but then I have to follow regulations.
Well, I would tend to agree with you, except we had a gentleman in here probably 6 weeks ago who was moving to England and realized somewhere along the line, according to him, that he had a finished basement that was finished illegally, and he went for a deed restriction, and we didn't blink. Now, for all we know, he finished it the week before, and the buyers may not look at the deed restrictions or care because they're going to do the same thing he did. So I do think we need to be consistent, and I think after this is over, we need to sit down and work out some firm policy, but we have been flexible in the past.
Yeah.
And if this were the builder, I wouldn't even entertain it. But my understanding, this is a woman got put between in a difficult place
Right.
because her awareness of the situation came after she had given up her previous housing arrangements. So she was forced to move ahead with this sale, despite it not having been as it was originally portrayed. I haven't verified that, but I take it at face value.
But they put a lot of restriction. Bill, what do you think? A lot of restriction.
Bill's not for any reason.
The gentleman that you were talking about earlier, Brad, first of all, it wasn't new construction.
It was an over.
And secondly, had that basement been finished off according to the way it should have been done, with a permit and everything else, he wouldn't have been coming before us. So somebody way back when didn't do their homework and look at the deed restrictions on the house or whatever. And I see the same thing possibly happening here. She could sell the house to somebody who isn't concerned about the deed restriction because we don't have bedroom police or house police or whatever. And as much as I am against rules and regulations, we are overburdened with them. And quite honestly, you're suggesting that we get our ducks in a row and we come up with some other sort of regulation so that this doesn't happen
No, just a
again.
consistent policy, not regulations. Policy
Okay,
is
well,
different
all
than
I'm getting at
regulations.
is, I'm not huge on regulations. What I am huge on is if the time is going to be spent to put them in place and you don't benefit from it by enforcing them, why are we sitting here now, and why don't we take the regulations and just have a bonfire and celebrate? Because, I mean,
Except though the same regulations that
sat here-
require this also give the board some flexibility to make case-by-case decisions.
variances are supposed to be granted when there is no other option available. And when a particular situation arises. And I don't look at this as an earth-shattering set of circumstances to the purchaser of the home. And I just don't, I see us coming back and having somebody else coming before us and going through the same thing again and again. And,
But we're
I've
several
said
against down the
everything I can
road.
say. That's just the way I feel about it.
I understand, and I appreciate it.
And we've had several things come before us over the last several months that I felt the same way about, and I was the only one that voted against it. And it's not because I'm just being a hard nose, it's because these things come back and haunt us.
John?
Sort of getting back to the compliance and the enforcement of a restriction. So when someone buys a house and before everything, the PNS is signed, an attorney goes through things, right? How did they go through and miss this?
We didn't miss anything. It was a two-bedroom deed restriction,
Right.
and our buyer was fully informed of that and acknowledged that she didn't need more than 2 bedrooms. And the marketing materials said with a finished basement. So we don't come out and measure the house and look at the house and the configuration and everything. When it was the day before the closing.
So it was
that
sold
the-
as a two-bedroom with a finished basement?
With a finished
not as-
basement.
Not as a three-bedroom.
Right.
That's,
And that's what she thought she was buying. And then the day before the closing, which is too often the case, all the time with new construction, the builder gets the CO the day before the closing. So we didn't have an opportunity to see a CO that said, no, we can't have it till the day before the closing, which is long after, as you say, she gave up her housing and made her plans.
So what I'll add in is I've dealt with government most of my career, and what works best is when people use some judgment and the people in government have a humanistic viewpoint on things. And Bill, I appreciate your perspective on the regulations, but the same regulations that require the bedrooms and the septic to match up also allow for variances and some judgment by the board. And this isn't the first time, if we do this, that we'll have done it. And I think we can look at every case on a case-by-case basis. I'm not suggesting more regulations. I think we need some consistent policy we agree on as we move forward after this. That's different from regulation. It's what we think on things and how we agree on it. We are pushing up past our next hearing, so unless there's any other discussion, I guess I'd look for a motion.
so I guess one more, to get to Bill's point, what would lead us down the path to not grant a deed restriction or variance when someone comes in?
I think that's for future discussion, but I mean, for instance, if we
Maybe that's
thought
part
this
of
is a
the-
situation where somebody might actually use this as a bedroom, might move out of the people.
3 kids.
You know, if this were Alston, for instance, or Brighton, I'd never consider this because it's a student ghetto and they're going to put as many people into that space as they can. That doesn't seem to be the issue in Littleton right now. There may be other situations with farm labor housing or something like that where we may not want to look and consider that.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we deny the application to have the finished basement on Arc Place. I don't know the number.
5.
5 Arc Place.
Second?
Second, can we have we don't have a member that she's in vacation, but it'd be nice to have another member before we make a decision.
That was the situation we ran into last time a month ago, too. So.
I wasn't here.
Any further discussion?
It seems to me that it's hard to take a vote on this unless there's a full understanding of what the language of the deed restriction is going to be, too. Because I could vote one way or the other, depending on what we.
But I think we have to go by the motion on the table.
Yeah, I know.
Which is basically no matter what.
Right.
And then if you think that you can, if it fails, you can offer a competing motion that has more details, or somebody can.
It'd be much better if this would be continued to another meeting without making any final decision.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All against?
Aye.
Yeah. I'm against as well, so we're split. So the motion doesn't pass, but neither does the request. So how do we handle this? I know we've got at least one lawyer in the audience, so go ahead.
Tom?
Yeah, so you're doing beautifully. You've got a 2-2, so you have no affirmative action.
Right.
So the matter is still, you haven't closed. The matter's
You can
still-
request that we take it up when we have a full board, and what I think we can offer to do is give you notice ahead of time when we have a full board. I will point out, quite frankly, however, just for this, that the board member who's not here voted against this last time.
What about, is there a competing motion tonight in favor? That one didn't pass, so.
If somebody wants to offer a competing motion? I think you'll end up with the same result anyway.
I think we better
I'm the
leave it
chair, I
here
can't
and
offer
have
it.
another shot with the full member. I never know, we can discuss this without, we should just continue. And then
We could
find
take a
out the
motion to
best way.
continue this as well until we have a full board, but
Yeah.
quite honestly,
We don't know what can happen, you know. The question is, as she mentioned, that as long as there is a restriction, whoever buys this house, it's gonna be for 2-bedroom. The question is, the cellar will not be finished, period. If they wanna put a rug, they can put a running, no air condition, no heater, no nothing, because for something, for health purpose, for safety too. Somebody might sleep there, something might happen.
I think that's the point, Gino. If we're gonna have.
All right, that's it, let's continue.
Do you want to continue, or are you interested in coming back to this?
Sure.
So July 14th.
Would it be a continuance or a reapplication?
Reapplication, I think.
Well, it's just a discussion.
It's
so I
just a
don't think we're
discussion,
applying for
so-
This was a
anything.
discussion, that's all I see here, discussion.
Okay, thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
All right, I apologize for being a little over schedule. The next matter is 1115 Taylor Street, an update on the contamination order, condemnation order, I'm sorry. I believe the building owner, do we have the owner here? Are you the actual owner? So I will say, sir, at this point, we're pursuing this, so this is not going to be a very long hearing. We're going to give you a brief period of time to make your case. We'll answer a few questions, but I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to make your case. What the board has basically discussed at the last meeting is, what happened was, we looked at all of our pending issues out there, a number of which had to do with buildings and hoarding and that sort of thing. We prioritized those buildings, and this particular building came up as our top priority. And I think the board voted to pursue basically tearing the building down. That's the technical term for this.
Right.
So we are pursuing that. It will be a long process. So again, I will give you until 8 o'clock to make your case, and if you could tell us who you are and your legal ownership of that, that would be helpful.
I only came here for one thing tonight, not to answer any questions, not to ask any questions. I simply came to, I watched your video from the last meeting, and I found it very encouraging to watch what you said and the concern you expressed, and you expressed a concern, particularly verbally. I watched the whole hour of the stinky farm that was for a whole hour. I had to watch all that before I saw my 10 minutes. But I will, I've lived in the house and owned the house since April 15th of 1971. I've lived there for 45 years. The house is very sound, and I will simply, I've got the original of this report, and I'll just simply hand this to you. And I've had it notarized. answers the question that you've been asking. Finance the answering, or asking and answering of the question some more. Or I'll provide more answers if you need it. More detailed if necessary.
So just to clarify, Mr. Ness, our authority does not rest simply on the house being structurally unsound. I did ask some clarifying question because it would have been an easy decision if it was not. But I think we left last meeting all understanding that it was structurally sound. But in the conditions laid out in the regulation, we felt we still had the authority and actually responsibility for pursuing this. So even though the house may be structurally sound, that's not the only issue that we consider in this.
I hear you, and I
Okay.
won't answer.
So I'm just
I won't
clarifying,
hear
I'm
you.
not arguing.
And so, that the building is only 110 years old, and it has been occupied for 45 years, and the building inspector has inspected it many times, and there was never an issue of the condition of the structure itself. There's a condition on other things, and I will supply a very interesting bit of information. There's a $25,000 computer-operated wastewater system, the property. I put that in a long time ago. It has some other very interesting features to it. There are other inventions that I have there that I haven't talked about. And the old Board of Health has known about it, but not currently something. I won't go further than that. If you have any questions, I'll put them in writing, and my lawyer will handle any answers to you. And certainly we'll end up in court. There's no question about that. And
I will point out, this will be a long process. This is,
I hope.
there's
And,
a lot of
if-
checks and balances on this. This does not move quickly. You will have opportunity to rectify this in the interim and
Well,
and
I'm
remove
gonna
our
go ahead and
cause for doing this.
I'm going to go ahead and work on the house, because it's, there are three things I think I should say tonight. Number one, the ruling on the condition of the house came because one of my residents was getting free rent, and he knew that if he reported it, that there'd be a problem. So a man that lived with me for 12 years, he reported it, and then I didn't fix the house immediately because it forced him to have to move out. And by forcing him to move out, he's doing much better instead of living there free. He's a level 3 sex offender, level 2.
It does remain legally condemned as we
What?
speak. It is legally condemned as we
I
speak.
have, but there's a conflict in the condemnation, because when it was condemned for the condition in the house. It was not condemned for the structure itself is condemned. And then the reason I was also told, either by you or it was put in writing, that because the basement of the carriage house was open, the feeling was that it was a danger to have people living there. And so that is there are two conflicting things. One, the basement of the carriage house that I tore down. I tore that building down myself. At 82 years old, I tore that to save the money. I was only allocated $59,000 to remove that building, and I did it for that. But $59,000 just for the carriage house. I tore that down. But the condition that I was given, the house could not be occupied because of its condition inside and because of the open pit on the outside. I
Mr.
can't
Ness,
fix-
I don't want to argue with you, but what you're going to need to do is have your lawyers rectify that with the building department in Roland who's condemned it. As long
Roland has
as,
condemned it?
we condemned it. Okay, well,
What?
I think, I apologize, I misunderstood. We
I've
condemned
already
it,
talked to Roland.
and we stand by that condemnation,
Okay, I've
so
already
that's something
talked to
you can
Roland.
challenge, but
Okay.
at this point, we believe it's been legally condemned, and we're moving
Well,
forward with that.
then, that's to be, but I've talked to Roland. He says he has nothing.
I misspoke, I apologize.
Well, he said it's all up to you, and that's the next thing. That will be resolved, maybe in federal court before we get this done. You'll all probably be down to Boston sometime to federal court, because this has moved into a federal court issue, Mr. Harrington. This is going to move on to that and things, and I've already spoken to these two gentlemen separately, and there's a conflict of interest for both of them in handling the case for you, because this gentleman has told you things that were not true at the last meeting, and this gentleman has been a conflict with me for 25 years. They tried to get, his firm tried to get me out of the house 25 years ago.
On behalf of the town.
Oh, no, of course, I'm not the lawyer's office, not, of course.
Well, I will
understand.
tell you that this board has full trust in Mr. Gareffi, and we have full trust in our legal counsel. So if you need to support those allegations in court.
I probably won't have to, because the other things that will be accomplished, I'm a stupid 84-year-old man, but I've been dealing with this town since 1969 when I moved here. And so I know where the strength is and where the strength isn't. And as a veteran, I'm in psychiatric help right now because of the trauma I'm going through. And this has been, I was in the Marine Corps 60 years ago. They are supporting me. I've got a mental health man there, and I've got one at Lipton Center out here in Leominster for mental health reasons. And this is causing me a great deal of stress. And in this day and age, with some changes in the medical field, mental stress can be equated. If you punch me in my face, that would be visible. But stress,
I think we're
we are going. I want to give
straying
you
quite a
something.
bit here from the focus, Mr. Ness.
No, this is because it's affecting my. I just want you to know.
Okay,
It's affecting my.
Point taken, we understand that this is stressful. We would not undertake this lightly, but we do believe this is a serious issue and we're pursuing it.
It's a.
I think your efforts, my suggestion would be your efforts to rectify the condemnation order,
I
and that
will.
would remove
I will. I'm waiting for
most
money
of
to
our
come
impetus
from
to
Bank
move
of
forward on
America.
this.
There's a misunderstanding of Bank of America's interest in this house, I learned.
And-
But Bank of America is holding $300,000 to repair the house.
Well,
to
and
rebuild.
I will tell you, we are moving forward with this.
Well,
with
I'm
our
moving
efforts.
forward too, sir.
It will not be a fast effort, so you should have plenty of time to rectify this.
I'd
And if you
like
do,
to-
we will gladly rescind any option we have to do this.
I would like to be on a cooperative level. I've always been cooperative, and I am in hopes that this is the total thing. My attitude has been based upon the Bible all of my life, and it still is. I have 12 people living with me in one house in Air, and only half of them are paying any rent right now.
Mr. Ness, I will say, we appreciate this. We have gone over the time allotted. What I would say is, from our perspective, my suggestion would be to get a building permit to rectify this
We've got the building
situation.
permits all made out.
No, well,
We've got them made out,
you
but
may
I
have them
don't have
made
the
out, but they're
money.
not approved, so you need to move forward with that process and rectify the conditions in the house.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes, sir.
say a few words? The condemnation order took place March 27th, 2012,
That is correct.
3 years ago. This is 2015.
No, it was not 2012, it couldn't have been.
Yes, it
Well,
is.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'd
but
like to see a copy of it, because it was fully occupied up until 2011, 2013. It was still occupied, sir. 2 years it was occupied in the conditions.
2012, March 27th.
Illegal.
I think the point, Mr. S., regardless
had
of the dates, it
three-
has been a significant amount of time it has been condemned.
You've had 3 years to correct the situation. No effort has been made whatsoever. No permits have been taken out to have any work done. You can't do the electrical work, you have to have a permit. You can't do the plumbing, you need to have a permit. You can't do
I know
anything
that, sir.
structural because you need a building
I
permit.
know that, sir.
The only thing that has been done on that property was the carriage house was torn down piece by piece by somebody, I assume,
I mean-
you employed, or by you.
Me.
Either or. That had nothing to do with the condemnation order. Nothing that has been done there since March
Are you
of
going to,
2012.
are you going to
has-
insult me
can
and
I-
stand here as a senior citizen?
Excuse
veteran,
me.
And you're going to
Excuse me, I sat here and listened to everything you had to say.
But you're insulting
Would
me
you
now.
have the respect to listen to me for a minute? Nothing that has been done on that property since March 27th, 2012, has come anywhere close to getting it to be habitable. And that's what the condemnation order required. And you haven't done anything, nothing.
We will.
And the town, within 1 year, the town had the legal right to demolish and clean up the property. And we didn't. Now it's 2 years beyond that. It's been 3 years. And you're gonna come here and tell us that you already have the permits made out? I'm sorry.
Oh, you want
I'm
to throw
not
me out
buying
now,
it.
so I'll go. I'll
No,
go.
Mr. Ness, my suggestion is this. We can talk about the past, and the only thing I will say about the past is that we did not see significant effort on your part for some period in addressing the condemnation order.
This gentleman knows-
Excuse me, let me finish, please. That is what has moved forward to explore the demolition activity. You can stop this very easily. It's all in your capabilities. You get out a building permit, you free up your money, and you address the conditions. In the interim, we will be moving forward with a demolition.
Sir, will you come here, please?
I'm going to entertain until 10 past, because I think
This
we've...
gentleman is the man that is my contractor. He has a general contractor. I've got all his papers. We didn't bring them tonight. I came here with just this to show you that that building is safe, and I don't know where we're going to get this drained out.
Mr. Ness, I'm
The money
going to...
didn't come to start tearing it down until on December 31st of 2012 is the first promise I got for money from Bank of America. 2 years. And I don't know where you got your dates from, because his letter, or whatever the letter is, it is totally wrong, and that's even better for me if it's totally wrong.
Mr. Ness.
Because you got the wrong information in it.
Whether it's been 2 years or 3, frankly, it's been too long without this situation
I
being
agree with
addressed.
you.
So, we are moving forward, and
No.
my suggestion is you should do the same. You have your contractor, I think that's a good step
Oh, yeah,
forward.
he has the application.
You need to fill out the application, but we're going to look for those conditions in that property to change. That is the only thing that will stop us from moving forward on
But
this.
something else would stop you. Because after the condemnation notice, when the people had to move out, it was not condemned until March or April of 2012, not 2000, or 2000, it was much later than the date you've got. They were living there, and this gentleman saw them living there.
They were living there illegally.
No, they were not. He would have never let people living there illegally, and we can check the...
Let me check with council, were there people living there illegally?
I was at a meeting where they talked about people living there illegally and
Okay.
asking them to get out.
So, we have a disagreement, Mr. Ness. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, it
It's-
does,
Well,
because it re-
no,
it's
I'm
an
telling you as the
organization.
chair of this board that it doesn't, and that you can take that up in court. What we're looking for is not the past. I don't want to argue about the past. We're moving forward with demolition. You can change that by getting your contractor the permit and the money and putting the effort forward
I
into
don't have
removing
no
the
money.
conditions.
I have no money.
And it's been too long for us to accept any more excuses.
There's no,
So,
I've never given an
this will
excuse
not move
before.
quickly. You have time, and if you don't have time, then I would argue it's been too long and it is time to demolish the building.
You will never succeed in demolishing the building. It's an antique building, it's a Victorian house, and...
May
the-
15, 2012.
There'll be other things, and I don't care. I'll help you tear it down. I don't need the building. I'll help you. I'll help finance the tearing down of the building, if that's what you want. I'll help tear down that
That
building.
would help, but I think if you want to save the building, which it
I
sounds
don't.
like you want to do,
I don't. I don't want to save that building because it's causing me, right now, Bank of America wants $600,000 for that house. A mortgage of $400,000.
Wow.
And $200,000.
Mr. Ness, this is
But
rather
this-
immaterial to what we're here to discuss today.
But it's important for you to understand, going to help you, folks. I'm going to help this board if you want help. I've done nothing but help the town of Littleton over these years, and the people that have lived there. Maybe 500 people have lived in that house for the last 45 years. I help people, and I will help you gentlemen to do this right by giving you correct information, which didn't happen,
Well-
and what is given to you so far.
If when you do free up your money, you so choose to demolish it yourself, that would be helpful.
I don't have any money.
Mr.
I
Chairman?
precluded that by saying if we did. Yes, sir.
Could
I
I,
have no money. Bank of America is the
moving-
only one that has the money.
But you said that the
Okay.
Bank of America was gonna lend you the money, am I correct?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I
I
said
think
Bank of
this-
America
this
is the one. I
discussion
didn't
is-
say that. I never said that.
Mr. Ness, I'm going to ask you to sit down. I'm going to rule that this discussion has ceased to be constructive. I think we understand your perspective, and you understand our perspective, which is the best we could hope for tonight. You understand that we're going to move forward in a demolition activity. It will not be a fast process. You have the right to legally challenge that. There are a number of steps along the way. You can exercise that. And at any point in time, should you get legally, address the conditions of that building and have the condemnation order removed, you will remove our impetus to move forward with demolition. That's a summary of where we stand. There's not much else to say beyond that.
I hear what you
Okay,
say.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Bill.
Based on what you just said, I would like to make a motion in regards to our actions. Motion being, whereas the property at 11-15 Taylor Street was declared uninhabitable by the Board of Health on March 27th, 2012, and whereas the owner has not secured the property as required by law, and whereas the owner has done nothing in 3 years to make the property habitable, and whereas the town of Littleton has the legal right to demolish said property, I would like to make a motion that the Board of Health request the Selectmen to place on the warrant for the fall special town meeting an appropriation of $35,000 to fund the demolition and cleanup of the property at 11-15 Taylor Street.
Do I have a second?
Thank you very much for that motion. I appreciate it.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Here's your original condemnation order from 2012.
Wait a minute, let me get him a copy.
Let's get them, that's not the original, is it?
Get a copy, will you?
Thank you. We have a copy. Just to clarify, regardless, it's immaterial. I think we had to see the same motion, it was 2013, sir.
May I see your copy?
What I would ask you to do is, if there's significant change in what you do, if you do get a valid permit, Shelley will know that. If you start construction, Shelley will know that. If you have Roland out there who certifies that conditions have changed, we will know that. That can stay our action.
Sir, I swear on the stack of 1,000 Bibles, I've never seen this document before. I've never seen this document before. If I'd ever seen this document, I would have had a completely different response to this. I've never seen this before,
Is that certified mail, Shelley?
Yes.
so I don't know.
We had it hand delivered by the police as well.
Yeah, it was hand-delivered by the police, it was certified.
But I have never seen this.
And
Master
as I
document.
said, there are legal remedies from you if you're feeling we're acting inappropriately. We do not believe we are. We had this, everyone here
wouldn't-
believes that you were hand-delivered this particular document and have seen it. If you, again, you have several options here, and you have a
Well, I
right to
don't know what
exercise
they are right now, but I'll find out, because I've never seen this document
You need to speak to
before.
an attorney then, sir.
I don't have an attorney, I do all of my own legal work. And that's how I responded 25 years ago. I did my legal work. I brought the case against the town didn't bring a case against me. And so the town lost at that point because I did my own legal, and I didn't have to have the money to, I'm broke all the time. I'm so rich, I owe the bank $1.4 million. I'm in debt to the
Okay.
bank, 1.4 million, and I'm so rich, I get food stamps.
So,
I live on $600.
again, I think
a month.
we've strayed from the matter at hand, sir.
I don't think so, sir. I
Well,
am the
do,
one.
and I'm chair of this committee, and I'm saying we have, and we are going to close this unless anybody else has anything constructive or pertinent to say, and I haven't heard you say it, sir.
Who?
You. You've been straying away from the topic at hand.
No, I'm not, because this is my property. I have a constitutional right to have things done right, sir. And it's my right to defend before this board that you just voted to do things that I know are going to be ruled by the federal court to be illegal because of things that you won't want to face. But if you don't want to face it, and if you don't want my help, then we'll go the full route.
What I don't want, sir, is to hear a lot of discussion on your financial and how rich
But
you are and
it's-
how poor you are. It is no
It's
bearing on this.
absolutely important, because there's not money except with the Bank of America, even though you don't think so, the Bank of America still is holding money that I will need to tear the house or to fix it. I live at a poverty level. I take care of people at a poverty level. I do good work for God. I do good work for, I'm gonna, if this goes on, no one will ever live in the house again. It'll be a commercial property, it'll be used for office space, and I'm gonna start a church there. How's that for you?
It's
There's
your
gonna be
legal
a
right.
church
If
there.
you follow the law and you meet zoning and everything
I
else,
do
you're
follow
more
the
than
law,
welcome
sir.
to.
I have never broken
But
the
at
law.
this point, the conditions are such, you've just heard this board vote, that we're going to pursue demolition. I've told you how best to avoid that, and you still have, obviously, all whatever legal remedies you can find.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, would you give him any
Yes,
time?
yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm his contractor. Does the building inspector have a list of the things that, well, I'm a little confused. If we apply for a building permit and he issues a permit to say, start on the carriage house foundation, that would be our first permit, is to secure the foundation. If he issues a permit for that particular line item or whatever other line item we might pick, does that mean the board will still continue the process of condemnation, even though?
I think I can speak for the entire board that we're going to see more than just a permit and discussion, but actual work on this building.
will
No, I understand that.
There will be
But
work.
If we did get a permit and we get the yard cleaned up and we fix these things and make it safe for the public and the town and not be such an eyesore, so I'm just saying, we get the building inspector behind us, does that mean that the board might follow if they see progress?
All
Or
this-
you guys would still continue?
What about all the stuff in the yard? You're gonna,
Basically, you need to assure us that you're going to rectify conditions there so it's not condemnable.
Sure.
That's fine, I
We
want
need
that
to use some
too.
judgment in there, and obviously, there's an area where you're working on it, and we may trust you. My understanding is in the past, things have stop and go and stop and go, so
I've been
we're going to hold
sick,
you
and
to a
it's
fairly
medical.
high standard.
Right, so we don't want it to drag on for years.
Yeah.
We don't wanna
Right,
see
so we're going to
progress.
want to see significant progress,
I
if
want the
not
house.
completion.
I want the
Particular
house ready to be
milestones.
occupied by Thanksgiving or Christmas. I want that house done and the basement secure so
Then
that
we shouldn't have no issue, sir.
That's fine, that's what I came with the offer tonight.
Excuse me.
Because I don't want you to have any issues with me or the house.
But then you know what your charge is.
But I haven't had the money to do it
And
until
unfortunately, this has gone on for too long for us to
I
consider those
can't
excuses.
control everything that happens to me.
Mr.
Gino.
Chairman, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You say that you like to start right near the carriage, am I correct? The foundation.
Well, I just picked
But
that.
before you can do that, you have to have a permit. He mentioned
We
before,
know
Well,
that.
he agreed to that, Gino.
Oh,
Yeah.
he mentioned before he doesn't have the money for the permit.
Yes, I
Well,
do.
that's right, but-
I do.
No, you said before that you didn't have any money for your permit.
Today, this week, I
That's
don't.
right.
But my
Okay,
Social
that's-
Security and my veterans benefit comes in a
I
couple of days.
understand that.
Then I can afford that.
I think the board, because the situation, I know that somebody might say, hey, we give him 3 years. Let's give him a 30 days, so he can get the permit, get it started.
Well, Gino, we're not
And-
going to tear it down tomorrow. He has plenty of time to start it while we move
Yeah,
forward
but
with this
it's all
process.
about the money, we can get the permit fairly easy.
Yeah, but
It's fairly
if
quick.
he-
But we're going to want to see action on
Well,
that
that's right, we
permit.
just don't want to sit on it, right?
Between now and 30 days, the board would like to see an action before we completely
Gino,
go
that's-
against it.
that wasn't in the motion.
Yeah, I mean, so it
It's
seems
been-
pretty straightforward. We have an approved motion and it'll be, we're gonna get it on the town warrant, which is
You won't
November,
have to. You won't
right,
have
the next town meeting?
It'll all be done by the time of any town
Then there
meeting.
should be no issue, because
Then
There
if
won't
that's the
be.
case, then
There won't be
we'll
any
go to the
issue.
town meeting.
then we don't need to discuss this any further. You know where we
Thank
stand,
you.
we know what you're planning on doing, and we're fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor?
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
for your service.
I own the property next door to Hughes, 1719 Taylor Street. It's been over 3 years. I run a business there.
Thank you for your
I have
service.
clients that come into town, and I appreciate the motion, I appreciate it's moving forward. Watching the place sit there with nothing going on for 3 years, I'm running a business, people ask me, what's going on next door? Why doesn't the town step in and do something?
Well, we did.
It's time.
And
We
that's-
did. It's time. It's been 3 years, the place was condemned, there were people living there illegally, they got rid of that, good, it's moving, but it's time.
Right. And I will say, if Mr. Ness addresses the situation, we will back up, but we're not going to have a lot of patience for excuses for delays.
I am dead set against backing up anywhere. He's
We're not
had
backing up, Bill.
3 years, that was the term you just used.
No, we will back off if he addresses the issues
Okay.
that cause us to take this
My
action.
issue is, he's had
But
3
not until.
years. What in the world would make any of us think that it's gonna look like the Taj Mahal by December?
I don't think we're requesting the Taj Mahal, I think we're requesting that he change the conditions to the point
No,
where it's no longer
I'm
condemnable.
I'm basing on what he said.
Right.
It's
Clean
gonna
up
be
the yard.
done, it's gonna be done.
I
by
never said
December.
that. I said I will have the things cleaned up and have the house getting ready for reuse as an office. There will be no people sleeping or
So,
living
to
there.
clarify for both you, Bill, and Mr. Ness, basically for me, as a voting member of this, to consider doing anything different than the path we're on, he will need to basically have done enough work to remove that condemnation order to our satisfaction.
Right,
That's not backing up,
right.
and the neighbor's satisfaction. If he
Okay.
did that, I assume you would be amenable to that.
You understand that?
With
So-
that, Mr. Chairman, can
But we will
I
not have
add?
a lot of patience for excuses or delays. I
Right.
will warn you of that. It's
Right.
been 3 years.
Mr.
And I won't
Chairman,
be,
can I add
I'll be
one
patient
thing?
too in not proceeding the town more quickly than my being able to do it. But on the 13th of June of 2012, a lady lied to the police. The judge in Concord, in Air District Court, put me in jail in Concord for 60 days. I had a vacation for 60 days from
This is
June
totally
13th.
irrelevant.
It is not irrelevant because it affected my ability to do something, sir. It
So,
affected my
Mr.
ability,
Ness.
my mental ability to
Enough.
do something.
I'm going to close this
Mr.
section of the hearing. We are straying very
Thank you,
far.
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We're not looking at 60 days, we've been looking at 3 years. It's time for you to take
There
action.
is something wrong here, and I don't know where it is, but I didn't get my first money till 2 years after this happened.
Mr.
I
Chairman,
didn't get it, and I have checks to prove it.
I have to say something in regards to what you said about him making progress. I would just like it on the record that cleaning up that yard
Yes.
and taking care of that carriage house,
Yes.
which are two things that have been brought up here,
Yes.
have absolutely nothing to do with the condemnation of the building.
But it's
So
solid fact.
anything that you do, you can come back here in a month and say, look, the yard is all cleaned up. I raked the leaves and I picked up the cans
No,
and
hold the
stuff.
junk out of there.
I
It
am
goes
not
beyond that,
making a
Bill.
joke out of it. There's only one person that's making a joke out of it.
No, he said junk.
Anyway.
He said
I
junk.
said
He didn't
junk.
say joke.
All I'm getting at is, the condemnation order is for the house.
It's very,
Got nothing to do with the junk in the yard or the carriage house. I just want it on the record.
Then
So
I
that you,
would-
do you understand that?
I don't believe it. I don't believe it because
You
the
don't-
condemnation of the house, if you will let me hire, or if you want to hire someone to come and go through the house like my contractor has and other people have gone through, there is nothing wrong inside the house except the mess. There's nothing wrong structurally with the house, sir. Nothing.
I didn't. I
Okay,
didn't
okay, I'm going to stop
mention
this now. It is no
structurally.
longer constructive. Bill, I think we've made our point.
yeah.
Mr. Ness, you've heard us. We're repeating ourselves
Yeah.
at this point.
Thank you for
I think we
coming.
can
That's
move on.
fine. Thank you very much,
for
sir.
coming.
Thank you.
Any other business?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming, Bill.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman.
No problem.
No problem.
We like passionate people involved in town. Is there any other business?
I don't think so.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
No, wait a minute, we gotta
Oh.
sign some, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Don't you have any,
No, we already said.
I signed a bill. Zoe, anything else?
I thought we,
So moved.
Second.
permits, you don't have any permits?
I second.
All in favor?
Second.
We get a second. Aye. Thank you for coming, everyone. Thank you.